Have you ever tried so hard to make something work? A relationship, a career move, a version of yourself, only to feel like the more you push, the worse it becomes? Have you ever felt exhausted, not because you're lazy, but because you're constantly trying to control everything? And here's the deepest question. Have you ever wondered if the reason life feels so heavy is not because it's difficult, but because you are forcing it? Pause. If any of those questions felt personal, stay with me. Hi, buddy, and welcome to the Silent Psyche. This is a space where we explore the thoughts you don't say out loud, the emotions you try to manage, and the inner tensions that quietly shape your life. We don't rush here. We don't shout solutions. We slow down. We observe. And we try to understand. And today, we're going to explore a powerful idea from Chinese philosophy, an idea that may completely change how you move through life. More than 2,000 years ago, a Chinese philosopher named Laozi described something called Wu Wei. Wu Wei is often translated as non-action, but that translation is misleading. Wu Wei does not mean doing nothing. It means not forcing. It means action that flows, action without inner resistance, movement without aggression. It is the art of doing without struggling. We live in a world obsessed with effort. Try harder, push more, grind, optimize, outwork everyone. If something doesn't work, we assume we need more control, more strategy, more pressure, more force. But look closely. How often does forcing something actually improve it? In relationships, the more you try to control someone, the more they withdraw. In creativity, the more you force inspiration, the more blocked you feel. In life, the tighter you grip, the more tension you create. Wu Wei asks a dangerous question. What if the problem is not lack of effort, but too much force? Laozi compared the ideal human to water. Water does not fight obstacles. It flows around them. It does not compete. It does not strain. Yet over time, water can carve through rock, not by aggression, but by persistence and softness. This is the paradox of Wu Wei. Softness can be stronger than force. Flexibility can outlast rigidity. When you force life, you're usually operating from fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of losing control. Fear of not being enough. Forcing is often anxiety in disguise. Psychologically, control feels safe. But excessive control creates tension. Tension narrows perception. It blocks intuition. It increases stress hormones. And the body stays in survival mode. Wu Wei is not passive. It is regulated action. It is moving without panic. We force timing. We want success now, clarity now, love now. We force identity. We try to become impressive instead of authentic. We force outcomes. We decide what must happen instead of responding to what is happening. And when reality doesn't obey, we feel frustrated. But reality was never meant to obey us. It was meant to be navigated. Wu Wei does not mean you stop acting. It means you stop resisting. You prepare, but you don't panic. You move, but you don't grip. You respond instead of react. Effortless action feels different internally. There is focus, but not tension. There is movement, but not desperation. There is intention, but not force. Force says, I must make this happen. Flow says, I will move with what is happening. Force demands control. Flow trusts timing. Force exhausts. Flow sustains. And here's the subtle truth. Flow does not remove effort, it removes inner resistance. Wu Wei sounds beautiful, but how do you actually live it in a world that rewards aggression and speed? Let's make this real. One notice where you are forcing the first step is awareness. Wu Wei begins with a simple question. Where am I pushing unnecessarily? Look at your life. Are you forcing? A relationship that constantly resists you? A career path that drains you? A version of yourself that feels unnatural? Forcing feels like tightness in your chest, impatience, obsessive thinking, urgency that feels anxious. Flow feels like focus without panic, movement without desperation, effort without inner tension. Your body usually knows before your mind does. 2. Differentiate effort from force. Wu Wei is not laziness. You still prepare, you still work, you still act. The difference is internal. Force says, I must control the outcome. Effort says, I will give my best and release the rest. Example, studying for an exam. Force, you panic about the result. You imagine failure constantly. You overwork from fear. Wu Wei, you study with presence. You prepare fully, but you don't mentally rehearse disaster. You act, but you don't suffer in advance. 3. Stop over-managing timing. One of the biggest ways we force life is by controlling timing. We think, I should be successful by now. I should have figured this out. I'm behind. That should creates tension. Wu Wei invites a different mindset. Move consistently. Let timing unfold. This doesn't mean do nothing. It means stop fighting the clock. Some doors open faster when you stop banging on them. Check 4. Pause before reacting. Most force happens in reaction. Someone criticizes you. You immediately defend. Something goes wrong. You immediately fix. Wu Wei introduces space. Before reacting, pause. Ask, is this situation asking for action? Or is it asking for patience? Not every problem requires immediate movement. Sometimes life resolves when you stop interfering. 5. Release the need to win every moment. Wu Wei teaches subtle strength. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to prove every point. You don't need to dominate every situation. Water doesn't fight the rock, it flows. And over time, the rock changes. In relationships, Wu Wei often means listening instead of correcting, allowing instead of fixing, being present instead of overpowering. 6. Trust small, consistent action. Effortless action does not mean dramatic action. It means steady movement without emotional chaos. Instead of, I must change my entire life this month. Wu Wei says, today I take one aligned step. No rush, no panic, no theatrics, just movement. 7. Detach from outcome, attach to alignment. This is the hardest part. We are conditioned to attach to results. Money, recognition, approval, validation. Wu Wei shifts focus. Do what feels aligned. Release obsession with outcome. Ironically, when you stop gripping results, performance improves because anxiety decreases, creativity increases, clarity returns. 8. Practical daily exercise. For the next 7 days, ask yourself once a day, am I flowing or am I forcing? If you are forcing, slow down, relax your shoulders, take one breath, adjust. Wu Wei is not a philosophy you understand once. It's a posture you practice daily. The reason Wu Wei feels dangerous is because it requires trust. Trust that not everything needs manipulation. Trust that timing matters. Trust that your life is not a battlefield. But here is the irony. The more you force, the less control you actually have. And the more you relax into alignment, the more natural opportunities appear. At the beginning of this video, we asked 3 questions. Why does pushing harder sometimes make things worse? Because force creates resistance. Why do you feel exhausted even when you're doing everything right? Because tension drains energy. And why does life feel heavy? Because you are carrying what you're meant to flow through. Wu Wei does not promise an easy life. It promises a lighter one. You still move, you still grow, you still act. But you stop fighting what does not need fighting. You become like water, persistent, calm, unstoppable. If this perspective resonated with you, if you recognized where you've been forcing life, take a moment to like this video. It helps this space reach others who may need to hear it. And if you want to continue exploring the quiet psychology of growth and alignment, subscribe to The Silent Psyche. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop forcing.